I don't know if you appreciate it, it really, Evanston's a very progressive town. When I was in the Geringer administration, Governor Geringer used to always comment about how progressive and how forward-thinking the town of Evanston was, and it's because of leaders like Mayor Davis that you've had over here that has really done some really cool stuff with your town. I hope you appreciate what they're doing here. The government that governs most efficiently is local government, and I am disappointed that the governor is chosen to really lack. I think Will would agree that my years in the legislature, local governments were always my number one concern as far as funding government. So, and in fact, well, we won't go there. Thank you for putting this together. You and I need to have a discussion about our founding fathers. You love them, and I pride myself in some knowledge of our founding fathers. So I'd like to visit with you a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to move around a little bit, so I'm going to be hard to get along with, all right? It's great to be among friends. I served in the legislature for 16 years, and during that time, it was a county district. So I represented, we had only one representative at that time, and I represented all of Uintah County. So I used to spend quite a bit of time in Evanston and knew a lot of people over here. I have to confess that in the last 17 years, I've kind of lost contact with Evanston. So it's great to be back over here and see some I won't say old faces, but familiar faces, and get acquainted with some of you. I'm sorry I didn't get around to introduce myself to all of you. Hopefully we'll get a chance to do that before the night's over. Whenever I think about speaking to friends, though, I think about the time when Governor Geringer sent me up to northwest Wyoming. And he told me that my job was to go up there, and despite the fact that those people, those ranchers up there, had been vaccinating their cattle for brucellosis for 3 and 4 generations, and despite the fact that we've been brucellosis free at that time since 1989, and despite the fact that we had never had a documented case of brucellosis in the state since 1985, my job was to go up there and to try to convince those ranchers that before they sold any of their cattle, they were going to have to get them in the chute, draw blood from them, and guarantee that they were brucellosis free. Needless to say, they weren't real happy with the state of Wyoming as we went up there. So we were standing outside the auditorium. There was about 200 ranchers there. And before the meeting, I saw a payphone on the wall. You can tell this is a dated story, but there's a payphone on the wall. And I remembered that I promised a friend when I was there that I would give him a call. So I checked my pockets. I had no change. I said, "Well, hey, you guys have any change?" I promised a friend that I'd give him a call. Well, these old ranchers, they just kind of paw on the dirt or the ground. And finally, one old rancher got his wallet out, and he gave me a $5 bill. I said, "No, you don't understand. I just need some change to call a friend." And he said, "Well, Ron, if you're going to call a friend, it sure as heck isn't going to be a local call." So I hope I'm among friends. Maybe I'm making too many assumptions. While I'm thinking about it, my wife Patty sends her regrets. One of our grandsons has a Christmas program tonight, so she thought she ought to take that in. So she's usually with me. Let me just real quickly give you some background about me. Some of you know me, some of you don't. So we'll start from that and to make sure you're acquainted with me. I'm a 4th generation rancher from northern the Bridger Valley. I think that's important. I think it's important for anybody that's looking at government experience to have some private sector experience, to know how to meet payroll, to know how to pay your taxes, to know how to try to find health insurance for your family, and at the end of the day still be able to try to make a living. We have a family operation, my brother and my father, and we've been in business for 100 years, and we're proud of that. It's very difficult for a family operation to stay together that long. And it's tough times. I mean, those of you with small business know how difficult that is. And so I understand that. And that's the most important thing I think I bring to this opportunity, is to know and understand small business. At the age of 28, I was fortunate enough to be elected to the House of Representatives. and I represented Uintah County for 16 years in the legislature. I served in the leadership, majority floor leader, majority whip, speaker pro tem, and was chairman of the Revenue Committee, which is the committee charged with taxation. So I feel like I have pretty good knowledge of the taxes that we'll talk about. And my son keeps telling me, you have to finish the sentence. Why is that important? I think it's important for the governor to understand the legislative process, to be able to know how to work with legislators, what buttons to push, where to insert yourself in the process to be effective. Following that time in the legislature, we came home, came back to the ranch. I thought my service in the public was through. We elected a governor, Governor Geringer, who I served with in the legislature. He called me up and said, would you consider being a part of my administration? So never in our wildest dreams did we think that we'd ever pack up our family and move to Cheyenne, but we did. By the way, we have 8 children, and at that time we had 5 children at home. Taking our kids out of school in Mountain View, where they had, 80 kids in a class, and putting them in school in Cheyenne Central, where they had 400 and 500 in a class, was quite a cultural shock to our family. But it was a good experience, and we had a wonderful opportunity to serve as director of the Department of Agriculture. I served there for 8 years, and under the Geringer administration, he instituted what was called a Natural Resource Sub-Cabinet. So not only did I work on agriculture issues, but we also worked on all natural resource issues, whether it was coal bed methane, whether it was endangered species, whether it was public lands, whether it was all the things that this state is a natural resource state. 75% of our revenues come from minerals. And so I have, I think, a pretty fair background in natural resources. In addition to that, as director of a state agency, I think that I can bring some experience in terms of state employees, understanding, that's probably, I don't know if anybody understands state government, but at least have a working knowledge of state government and how it functions. I'm comfortable in representing to you that as a candidate for governor, I will be the only candidate that will have private sector experience, legislative experience, and executive branch experience. Now, I don't know all the candidates that are going to be involved, but at least at this point in time, that is true, a true statement. We have decided to run for governor, and my consultants keep saying that you've got to quit saying we and start saying I. But it's important for me, and it's important for my family. It's important for me to tell you that it's a we decision. My wife and our 8 children are all involved in that decision. They are all involved in the campaign. I don't know how we did it for sure, where we made our mistake, but somewhere along the line we raised 8 political monsters in our family. They love politics, and they're very heavily involved. And they are all an active part of our campaign. So it is a we decision. Now, why did we decide to do that? We decided to run for governor very simply, and this is going to sound really corny, but it's because we love this state so very much. Wyoming is so unique that most of us that have lived here don't appreciate how unique it is. When Mike Sullivan said, our former governor, said that Wyoming is just a small town with long streets, I think that's a great description of Wyoming. You can't go anywhere in Wyoming that you can't see somebody that you know, or somebody that knows somebody that you know. We're a very small town, 500,000 people. I keep telling my kids over and over, never apologize for coming from the smallest state in the nation. That's the way we like it. And it's just very unique. We love it. The opportunities, the experiences that me and my wife and our family have had, we're doing this because we want to try to preserve that for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. And so we're in it. Now, I don't know about you, but we see some clouds on the horizon that threaten our lifestyle, that threaten the very uniqueness of this state. And most of those challenges, most of those clouds are coming out of Washington, D.C. If I would have come to this group a year ago today and stood before you and said, in the next year, we are going to nationalize our banks, we are going to take over the automobile industry, we are going to pass a economic